Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. It is Tuesday, and today you will notice I am joined by two of our wonderful reporters here. I'm joined by our own meteorologist Leigh Morgran and our own John Sharp. Now, today we've got something coming at you about the Hurricane Sally that is approaching our Gulf Coast. If you've been paying attention, you know that we have been on top of this, and we've been trying to give you the latest updates here. And also, just a little bit ago, about an hour ago, we showed you rather a press conference from Governor Kay Ivey giving a little bit of an update about the hurricane and what people can expect. So John Sharp is at the Fairhope Pier. We're going to get him to show you what it looks like there in just a second. But before we go to John, I hate keeping you out in the rain, John, but before we get there, I'm going to get our own meteorologist Leigh Morgran here to give us a little bit of an update on when landfall is expected and what we are really looking for to come from this hurricane.
Okay, well, as the latest update, which came out at 10 o'clock, it's a Category 1 hurricane, which is down from yesterday. Top winds around 85 miles an hour sustained. The thing is crawling to the northwest at only 2 miles an hour, so you could really walk faster than the storm is moving. That's going to be the big issue going forward. They're looking at landfall. The track continues to shift a little to the east, but there's still some uncertainty there because it is moving so slowly. But we're looking at a landfall possibly late tonight, early Wednesday morning, somewhere in the vicinity of Mobile Bay in that general area. Now, the cone of uncertainty stretches from Mississippi into the Florida Panhandle, so none of those areas, are out of the woods yet. But right now, it's looking like the Alabama coastline is going to take the brunt of it.
And I know that is not good news for our South Alabama residents. And again, like I mentioned earlier, John Sharp right now is at Fairhope Pier right off of Mobile Bay. John, tell us what you're seeing and give us a look about what the waves are at the bay are looking like.
Sure. Right now, we got quite a sightseeing expedition here. Cars and vehicles driving through, wanting to catch a glimpse of the Mobile Bay before the worst of the storm effects come. So let me kind of show you around here a little bit. Here's the vehicles all coming in to take a glimpse. Now, the Fairhope Pier is a popular destination. It is closed off right now to the general public. But as you can see, the water has been intermittently getting more aggressive throughout the day. Right now, we got a little bit of a break in the weather, but it's been aggressive at times. It's just kind of lightly raining at this point. But Mobile Bay is going to be active all day long and into the evening.
Well, and it seems like some of those waves are getting kind of choppy over there in the bay. Can you compare that to what that area normally looks like?
Yeah, it's pretty calm normally. I mean, it is getting choppy. We've had some strong wind gusts come through here, and it gets choppier as the strong wind gusts come. So right now, it is calm enough where folks are getting out and taking a look. Like this gentleman right here, he's kind of out. You see the cars all coming out here. And this is kind of a place to catch a selfie or a photograph before folks hunker down, I guess, later on this afternoon and to this evening. I think this evening is the key time frame in which folks are wanting to should be staying inside. More or less, local emergency management officials have told folks that you are to stay inside tonight. They want them off the roads. I wouldn't be surprised if there might be a curfew implemented this evening, but that has not officially been made yet.
Now, I've got a couple people saying, Carmen, stay safe. Yes, John, stay safe. You got a lot of well wishes there. JM says surf's up. And I know he's kind of joking here, but JM, we actually do have some video, which is just kind of crazy for Alabama beaches. That is on AL.com if you want to check it out, JM. But Leigh, and let's talk about the press conference that happened here just a few minutes ago from the governor, where she was really warning people, look, do not take this storm for granted. Do not underestimate it. And just because it's moving slowly, that actually makes things worse. So, Leigh, why is the slow speed of this storm so scary?
Well, it's moving so slowly that gives that rain, the same parts of the coastline, the same parts of Alabama times to be pummeled with, torrential rain and the wind. And it's just, sometimes hurricanes can move through really quickly and minimize the effect. That's not the case in this situation. The same area you're just going to have to be pounded for hours with this wind and rain. And, they were saying that rain could add up to 10 to 20 inches. Some areas could even get up to 30 inches. That looks like, around where John is. And then in Southwest Alabama, we'll get the worst of that. But then as it moves inland, it's going to cross over central Alabama, and places in central Alabama like Montgomery and Troy could get, 8 to 10 inches of rain as well. So it's not just a coastal thing, but the coast is going to get the worst of it, including storm surge. The latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center has predicting 4 to 7 feet of possible storm surge all along the Alabama coast. And that includes Dolphin Island, Mobile Bay, and they're really thinking that the Alabama coastline is going to get the worst of the surge.
Well, John, we can see that the wind is picking up there where you are off of the Fairhope Pier, off of Mobile Bay. We can see that. Now, flip us around, show us the water. And while you're doing that, John, I know that you drove down there from Daphne. What did you see on your route? Did you see businesses closing? I know we always expect the Walmart and the supercenters to be open, but what did you see on that drive?
Yeah, the Walmarts and the Target and Daphne were both closed. A lot of restaurants closed, a lot of businesses were closed, not surprising. Although it was a little bit scattershot as far as your fast food restaurants. Some of them had their drive-thrus open, some of them did not. It was kind of all over the map. Last night I drove around Daphne to several of the businesses, and it was also scattershot as far as some of them had sandbags in front of their front doors, others did not. So it's kind of like, there's no one-size-fit-all approach towards combating the storm or taking preparations for it. But there were some emergency crews that were parked at hotels around here, tree removal services. I saw several trucks at a hotel in Daphne that were parked there. And of course, all the Waffle Houses are open. There has not been one closed yet, or at least an announcement for one. We usually expect that. That's not uncommon.
Well, good. I'm glad we've got the Waffle Houses open. That I know makes us all feel a little bit better on that, because we do know that FEMA actually has a Waffle House index. So, Leigh, first of all, let's talk. We got a lot of people asking about what this storm is going to do to their area. So let's talk about when this storm makes landfall, where it's going to impact, where it's going to hit. Because that wind is so bad, I muted John's mic here so he can show us the area, but I know he's in that wind. So hang tight, John. But Leigh, we've got people asking about central Alabama and areas not on the coast. So we know landfall could be tonight or tomorrow morning in the Gulf Coast. What about the rest of the state?
Well, Sally's going to move inland slowly, and it's going to kind of hook to the northeast. So it's going to take it pretty much across the state. South of the Birmingham area is right now where they're expecting the center of the storm to go. So they're really thinking the heaviest rain and the winds and the threat of tornadoes, because there's always a threat of tornadoes. This is Alabama, after all, is going to be in the southeast part of the state. So Montgomery, Troy, Auburn, those areas right now are in line to see some of the most rain and a higher risk of those rotating storms. Now, all this is dependent on the track staying like it is, and it's continued to move, especially in the last 24 hours or so. So if that track were to shift to the south or shift to the north, then more of the state could see potential effects from the storm. But, North Alabama, we're looking at anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 2 inches of rain, with Northeast Alabama potentially getting the most. It's going to be rain on and off. Breezy, gusty winds from time to time. Central Alabama, the northern part around Birmingham, 2 to 3 inches of rain. And that rainfall forecast is just going to get higher as you head to the southeast. So, like I said, the Montgomery area, the Troy area, they could get 8 to 10 inches rain. All that rain in a short amount of time, these tropical rain and downpours, they drop a lot of rain in just a short amount of time. If you've ever been in one, you know exactly what we're talking about. And those can cause flash flooding quickly. And people don't always recognize the danger of flash flooding. And that's the biggest threat for this storm coming in, is the potential for the Weather Service and the Hurricane Center is calling it potentially historic flooding. And they don't throw those terms around a whole lot. They're more muted in the way they talk about things. So it's a big deal, and people need to take it seriously, especially since these things always seem to come in at night for some reason. I have no idea. They always hit at night.
And that is the scariest time for these things to hit.
And it's not a good time to be out, like John said, on the roads, driving around. And we're always going to see someone driving into the flood water, and their car going flood. Let's not give anybody any of that video to look at this time, please, people. So if you see water over the roadway, please don't drive into it. It could save your life. Just, not to be too dramatic about it, but take it seriously.
Very true. Turn around, don't drown. We know something that John DeBlock from National Weather Service said at that press conference this morning is he said, hide from wind, run from water, and now is the time to run from the water. Obviously, John is not running from the water. We have asked him to check this out for us. John, we got some people wanting to see the water. Will you show us kind of the view and how those waves are looking right now?
Sure. I'm right here by the Fairhope Pier. I'm going to flip the camera around. It should give you a good little visual. You can see the pier, which is closed to the public at this point. It's a little choppy. It's nothing that's uncommon for a tropical event right now. But we expect this to get a lot more violent as the day goes on, and definitely into the evening.
Well, we heard from the National Weather Service and from the EMA at that Governor Ivey press conference that the flooding could be so bad, not only because of the rain, but because of the rivers flooding and because of the bay flooding. And the governor has asked everybody in low-lying areas to evacuate, to get out of town and get to higher ground. John, are you seeing people evacuating? Did you see traffic? Did you see gas stations that were lined up? What did you see of that?
Not this morning necessarily, and keep in mind it's a voluntary evacuation, and Baldwin County EMA has also come out and requested this voluntary evacuation as well. They got what they call 2 evacuation zones. The first one being down on Pleasure Island, which is Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, and the Fort Morgan Peninsula. And also evacuation zone number 2, which is south of US 98 in the Foley. That's a big area. They're trying to get folks that are non-residents to move to a higher ground, folks that are not used to this type of storm system. And that's why, so they're really strongly encouraging folks that are in the area on, tourists, for instance, to move along, basically, to get to a higher area because they're not used to this type of activity. And as far as residents are concerned, they're requesting them basically to stay off the roads, especially tonight, if they're deciding to shelter in place, to do so, to make their last minute shopping trips and stuff like that. We're supposed to be done last night, essentially. Here in Fairhope, interestingly enough, I've seen a lot of local stores that are still open. The local hardware store is open. The Fairhope Market grocery store is still open. I asked an employee there earlier, I said, well, how long are you guys open till today? He says, all day, I think. So they're here for the duration. Even if some of the big box stores closed last night, there's still an opportunity for folks to go out and get their last minute shopping done for their, overnight into tomorrow. I mean, again, this is a slow moving storm. So what was originally thought to make landfall here today has now moved on into Wednesday. And so a little bit of a breeze coming.
Yeah, I know we got you out in the wind there, but we know that pier is closed. We know the beaches are closed, and we know that the governor has again asked people to evacuate from low-lying areas that are prone to flooding. We talked about the landfall changing, and we know National Weather Service said, look, because it is slow moving, there's so much time for the storm to change and to shift. Leigh, I know this is from National Weather Service. They said that there could be record flooding, 10 to 15 inches of rain at the coast. There could be 8 to 10 inches of rain in the Montgomery area, along with river flooding, the river, Montgomery, for Alabama River. And then they say Friday morning, we're expecting the storm to head up 85 and into Georgia, bringing about 4 to 8 inches of rainfall up to Clanton. So what does that mean for above Clanton, for Birmingham, and even up from Birmingham?
There could be a pretty sharp who gets a lot of rain and who doesn't get much of rain. It just depends on the track where it goes. Right now, they're anticipating the center of the storm to go kind of through south central Alabama. So generally with these hurricanes and tropical systems, the worst weather is on the east side of the storm. That's the wetter side. So areas to the south and east of where the center tracks are going to get the most. Areas to the north, like northwest Alabama, may not get that much rain at all. So it just depends, where that center tracks. And, one thing you mentioned about it moving so slowly, it's a really bad thing as far as terms of the amount of rain that it could drop. But it's also kind of a good thing in regards to the strength of the storm, because what's happened to it overnight is it's kind of sat in the same general area for so long that it's churned up the water underneath it, and cooler water from, down below has come up and it's kind of sapped its strength a little bit. And so that's why one of the reasons it went from a category 2 to a category 1 this morning. So in a way, it's a blessing and a curse, at the same time. So not as much wind to deal with, but the water is going to pile up. So in the southeast corner of the state in eastern Alabama, that's where you're likely to get more rain. Northwest part of Alabama, not as much.
Now, John, I know you said when you got there were people that were pulling up to the pier and checking things out and getting a little bit of an idea of what it looked like. Can you show us that parking lot if people are still doing that?
Oh, yeah. Take a look here. We even got family running around here.
Oh, gosh. Well, we've got somebody saying, Taylor says in Gulf Shores, nobody's getting out in this rain right now. But, Taylor, it looks like in Fairhope they are. It looks like people are headed to the pier, even though that pier is closed. And getting a little bit of a look there. We know we can hear that wind. We know that wind is really picking up. Leigh, what are the expectations for the miles per hour of that wind when it makes landfall? And John, I'm going to get you to keep giving us an eye on that pier and that water while we hear from Leigh about this wind.
They're anticipating no major changes in strength before Sally makes landfall, and there's a chance it could weaken a little bit. It's a category 1 hurricane. It's not out of the question it could weaken to a strong tropical storm. The hazards from rain, wind, and surge are going to remain the same. Rain and surge are going to remain the same. And then it's going to probably weaken rather rapidly once it moves inland and become a depression while it's still over Alabama on Wednesday and Thursday. For areas not on the coast, Wednesday and Thursday look to be the main days for rain, where you should expect the heaviest rain and the threat for the tornadoes.
And do you know what the Dothan area can expect? We've got some people asking about Dothan.
The Dothan area right now, they're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of rain for them. And the latest forecast, that's from the National Weather Service. So not as much as places to the east, Evergreen, and places, to the west of there, east-west, 10 to 15 inches, so not that far away. So right now, this forecast track, they're thinking maybe 4 to 6 inches of rain for the Dothan area.
Now, John, we can see those waves are starting to pick up. And have you seen in the, say, 30 minutes since you got there, have you seen the waves pick up from when you arrived right now?
Again, it's kind of not necessarily too much significance, maybe a little bit. When I got here this morning, though, there wasn't as much rain as what we're experiencing right now. So, yeah, I guess I could say, over the last couple of hours, it's picked up. And again, we anticipate this to really start cooking here this afternoon and into this evening. And again, emergency management officials down here in Mobile and Baldwin counties are encouraging people to stay off the roads tonight. Flash flooding is a huge concern in this area right now. And the word historic flooding has been bannered about. That should get everybody's attention, and that should tell everybody pretty much stay inside.
Right, and that is coming from John Sharp, who is a longtime South Alabama resident. John, in all of these storms that you have experienced over the years, we've got some people saying, "Look, is this bad? Maybe we don't have a frame of reference." I've never lived in South Alabama, so what can you tell those of us who maybe are not as familiar with living at a place where these storms happen? Does this seem kind of on par with the hurricanes you have experienced, or worse, or better?
So I would tell everybody that, from what we've been told, journalists have been told by EMA officials and public officials, do not compare storms with one another. They're all different. They all take on a life of their own. This one has been compared with Hurricane Danny in 1997. Hurricane Danny was a super soaker event. I mean, it dumped 36, 37 inches of rain on Dauphin Island. This has been compared with that, but that is, we've been told not necessarily for folks to do that, to understand that every storm is different. They take on a life of their own, and we're certainly experiencing that here with Hurricane Sally. This is not Hurricane Danny Part 2. This is a different storm.
Mm-hmm. Well, John, we can see that you're getting wet and you're getting real windy there. So John, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to take you out of here. Thank you so much for all of your reporting on that coast. You be safe, and we will check in with you later, John. So, Leigh, I have a couple of quick questions before I let you go. I know that, like I said, John is out there getting soaked, and we don't. Yes, we definitely need him to keep that technology working so we can check in with him later. Leigh, but question about this potentially historic flooding. Now, as the National Weather Service said, you hide from the wind, you got to run from the water. With flooding, it doesn't seem like there's much you can do. So what do the Weather Service and the other forecasters, what do they recommend for people in these zones where flooding is expected?
Well, I think the main thing to do is know if you're in one of those zones and if you are at risk of flooding, and then have a plan, because this could happen in the middle of the night. So you need to, if you think you're going to flood, if you usually flood, you need to get out and go somewhere to higher ground, because there's nothing worse than having the water come up, and you climbing onto your roof in the middle of the night waiting for someone to come get you in the middle of the hurricane. And so, we will try to avoid that situation. The other thing is to not drive. If you plan to not get out overnight, don't cross flooded roadways. And you just got to know where you are. You've got to know the risk if you're going to flood, if that's a high risk, and just if you think that's going to happen, you need to get out. Better safe than sorry in this case.
Absolutely. Well, Leigh, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of an update on this forecast, giving us the reminders of don't drive into flooded waters, to stay safe, get your batteries, get everything charged, stock up on those batteries, water, food, and have a way to call for help if you need it, if you are staying and riding out that storm. So, Leigh, thanks so much again. Giving another off-air thanks to John. I know that he was, like we said, he was going to seek some shelter there. So thank you, John. Thank you, Leigh. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Stay safe out there, and we will check in with you later.